Setting up signature patterns and correlation set lines, clock lines, and interference at 24 ground settings. It's all about understanding positions. Time sectors, lines of times of pi. The position location is levels of sector, vector, position location of tri-reactor. Now, the tri-reactor line interference sets line position locations as theta setting. Now, the theta set line positions. So levels of ground line centers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 number 1 line setting and set location is 0. Line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0 gravity. Line and position location of 6, 7, 8 over pi. Setting correlation systems into lines and location equal equation high center interference. Factor over line position. Now that position line centers perception locations change the after travels into position line conditions. That resets lines into relay programs, into realizing line setting, line and rotation position locations, analyze through core system, opens all track settings. Now the theta line center is high interference at one position lines equal location of 17. That's one ground setting locations into 17 line settings. That's position locations due to theta interference. That theta interference puts line position location out of the fear track location into settings. Metaphorical line stream sets line positions. Now, when you guys go into visionary cortex locations and the team set lines, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, line and rotation position locations, facing all levels of David and Goliath, setting signals and position location. All right, so setting line position location to travels, setting clock lines, setting line and rotation interference. All right, so we got 30 minutes on the dot, setting line, setting high position location to track settings. That opens all position locations, all of its high center interference. This is U position location of set location. And this is all line locations into all line center interference, indirect locations into Goliath. That's U, that's Goliath. Setting signal line interference, set location, signal line position, right? Travel position line settings. Ground line setting, rotation interference, setting line positions. So in that position line direct locations, so we got the fear line setting. All right, this is all levels of facing equine conditions of placebo. Placebo locations high center of 6, 7, and 8. Now the pyramid sets line center locations into your tesseract set lines. Tesseract tetrahedron location, archahedron locations of channels. Setting the line position location of travel settings. So this puts position location into your set location. Opens another magnetic line position location of travel setting into a panel of position line directions, right? All right, so you got 30 million set lines and 30 clock settings. Okay, 30 clock settings. Okay, set locations into its veil. Setting position locations, all right? Have fun. All right, setting set lines and high division locations, so levels of channel versus streamlines. Now, when you go through a 40C set line, it's a position location of bracket location of 0, 0. We got 2 track settings, setting position, right? Equine consists of tri. Now the tri line centers in position locations up and position locations of down and set locations. All right. Step by step to know exactly what's going on. Set line position locations into all channels and set lines in set location to your tesseract tetrahedron, your octahedron into a position to a higher travel communication. Setting line division location is 0 line in position of 12, 13 sets line positions into all positions into all line conditions of 14. Setting line position locations into a high setting. Stargate position locations open to all channel arcs and streamlines. Now that sets line position of 14 over line setting into 15 line positions. Now we come into 2 panels of operation to a data streamline setting. Setting correlation system to 16 set lines and set locations into a box into your throw pattern communication line setting and rotation. Setting position line direct locations opens all channel to 17 line streams, 17 equal line conditions into 1 into line center. 1 comes in position locations. All right, so this is past line channel, past position of present line center and center interference line position locations. In set locations. Now this puts you in a channel line streamline. So 0 line 1, okay, and 0, 0, 0 in set locations into 1 setting. Sets position of bracket interference. 0, 1 line position is 1 line track line, and 0, 0 is 2 track lines in security positions of parameters. You got 12 lines and set locations into position. So 12, 12, 12 is 36 line streams and set location of bracket line positions into sets of your theta setting. Open all communications, releasing all fear sets and all line positions into Three patterns are operating the cyclones. Now the cyclone line setting sets all position location directions. This channels its streamlines into high setting, puts you in a higher position locations into square in position of root, in line connections of pi, position location and directions, done by channel option streamlines. Now the reversing position location of all channel communications. This channels its line stream. Now when you come into channel streamline setting, the 0 line 1 in set locations comes in one channel. One channel comes into two line setting to secure the line positions. Now this comes into its triangulation set. The triangulation set lines position locations into all levels, downshifting through set locations. All right, so you got line position locations in line setting. This is all position of north into east set location. All right, now the east line west line position comes into west of east line connections. All right, setting core line center in position of south line in communication. So this is southwest in set locations. All right, so you got three triangle sets line, three sets line positions of 3 in set location of 3 in position of 3, heart, mind, and soul. Okay, setting correlation system, heart, mind, and soul set locations. Now this puts a position of a trifactor line positions equal line connected to an impulse in set locations. All levels of high setting position of direct line settings. Okay, looking at it through its location settings. All right, how it's set up. So once you come in impulse set lines, it opens all position location of track lines. Now when you open up the track line interference, we come into a circuit line setting into a data stream set and 4 line channels. The 4 channel line center line interference is direct locations to stand the missing all levels of track settings. Setting correlation system in position of 3 in line center to umbrella. Setting position location of 6 in set location another umbrella. Setting position location of 7 in set lines and communication. Now this opens all channel up to streamlines. Now the thetas open up set locations. The veil is now line connections. Veil line setting in set locations is now in freedom, and set lines in position of sovereignty. Okay, in set locations. All right, setting high division line rotations. Now you take the veil into triangle set lines, you take the freedom into box square line, and you take the sovereignty in the position of triangle set line. So this set location sends all levels of division locations into high channels in set locations all line setting. Okay, setting position of box line, setting communication to its open signal to position line directions. This sets a higher positions to its orb line setting, rotation to its spin cycle, and high setting correlation setting. This opens all position location and direction settings. Okay, so that's set location done by equation. Now the center communications comes into line setting of 1 now. One line setting sets line position locations into sets. So you got 17 equals 1, 1 equals 0, 0, bracket location setting. Now we're going to go bit in position of past line into present into future set location. Right? Complicated issues, the past line of the high setting location of 2 line settings. The rotation spin cycle sets its position locations into 17 line setting. 17 equal line positions. This where it comes into flux capacitor set lines in position of tri-reactor. Setting communications to all level setting into all level calculations to its position. Now, the rotation spin cycle sets 2 lines of high center. That's a diameter line interference in a clock line setting to a form communication to higher levels of travel line settings. This opens all position locations of line setting. Now, the zero gravity opens all position locations into higher channels of streamline positions. Okay, done by equation. All right, so setting signals in set locations. Now, the theta line center comes into all levels of travel locations. Now, when you understand the travel locations, understanding the flux capacitor position locations, all levels, you got 0, 0 here, 0, 0 here in set location. We bracket 2 line setting in set locations. So that's 2 operation, 2 security, and position line directions. Now, equal line connections of 0, 0, 0 and 3 line setting. Okay. 3 goes here, bracket location of 0, 0, 0, 1 is set locations. So that's 3 line setting. You cross the signals in position of 1. 3 equals 1. And position of 1, okay. 1 plus 1 equals 3 connections. All right, 0, position of 1 sector. Okay. Setting line division location rotations to its theta setting interference. Sets position locations all levels. Now the 3 line centers drops its signal to line interference into all levels of gamma signal. The gamma signal sets line direct locations, equal line connections signal lines, and set locations. All right, so we have a bracket and interference line position locations, again, into 3 0 line settings. All right, so 3 sets line division locations, high position locations, and crisscross and discommunications. 3 line center sets line into 3, and position location is 6, 7, and 8 in set locations in high division. Now the rotation line center comes into high setting. This is where you come in position locations so higher as it travels. Now the rotation spin cycle sets line position locations into its magnetic line position of channel after streamline. The rotation spin cycle sets line position to its formula, sets a new equation line centers and 2 vector communications into its colossal channel. Now colossal channel sets line position locations. So you have a 1 line setting into a realm circle in set locations. You have a 1 line setting in positions to a space bar set locations in channel operation of 0 line. Now the 0 line sets a rotation spin cycle to the ground setting that rotates its 2 panels of space and timeline position. Now we come into line center with circle interference. We come into a paradox, to a paradigm, to a parallel. We box its locations. This comes into a line center. It's a trifactor, a pi, and set locations. All right, done by equation. Ooh, ah. All right. As you get in position line direct locations, true to stand all levels of 17 now. 17 equal line conditions in line setting. So you got 7 equal line conditions of 0 in position of dot in position of 1. That's where you guys are now, right? So the 7 line sets line position location of 5. 5 equals location of 12 set locations. Now the channel out 12 line center, 12 sets here position locations. So this is where it comes into the XT 1000 line, into 12 line setting and set locations, all right? Into another 12 line rotation, equal line position locations into a box location setting and set locations. Now, once you get into line interference, line position location, high center interference, this comes into 36 fields of operation line setting into 1 ground equal line conditions of 17, 7 line setting and set location of crisscross locations into its timestamp and position locations into all levels into a 48,000 line window and correlation setting in direct locations. All right. Setting position location of high setting. Now this position locations of 48 out of channel out of string. Box the 48, set positions of 4, set positions of 8, 8, /8, 8, setting correlation settings into infinity cycle set location. Done by equation. All right. Now, when you come into a sequence pattern in a line setting in position of direct location, it's all levels of channel line settings. Now, it's all position locations of 17. 17 indicates 0 line position of 1. That's correlation setting. Now, the 1 line position comes into 1, 1 in equal line condition of 1, 1, setting communications into 1, 1 and set locations. Now, we take the equal line center, it's in position of north, and set locations of south and east and the west lines into its Merkabah position of its diamond setting. The diamond setting crosses line setting locations, so 11 equal line conditions to its diamond core set locations. Setting line position locations comes into position of channel line setting to all position line conditions to high generation line setting to its pi position, done by equation. All right, so once you're signaling in high center locations, 1 line setting, equal line conditions of its ground levels, in set locations equalized to its 17 set. Now this opens the 7 line position into all levels of 5 sets, equal line conditions of 12 set location. Now understanding position line setting is the square root. The square root sets line communication equals to its box of pi position locations of vector over sector through sector line division line position line directions. So that's 5 position locations equals all line center location of 2, equal line conditions of 7, equal line condition of 0 in dot position location of 1. 1 comes in the line setting, equal line to 17 in set locations, equal line to 7 line positions to its setting, done by equation. Setting communication line setting is to understand how to recognize the communications to its triangles. Now you have a triangle set here positions, you have another triangle here set position location, you have a solar line communication. There's the Merkabah. Setting line center, and there's a circle in rotations, in set location to its magnetic highway information line. Setting positions all levels of high center interference, travel communication system, and travel line setting, rotation. Now the rotation spin cycle sets line position of 0 line positions into 0 gravity. 0 equals gravity set locations into ozone set locations. Now, the zero line center strips down the center line position location in position. Now, position opens up another portal correlation setting into center correlation setting that rotates its spin cycle to another dimensional time rotations into its measure of correlation. That position location's high centers its high levels of travels into security measures in set locations. Now, the center line position comes into 24,000 signature equal line conditions of bracket of 3 zero line position location at all levels, a high setting. This measures its correlation to its mind setting to rotation to position locations into its 48,000 line stream. And set location is 72 high center locations into its triangulation setting rotations and is 72 channels equal line conditions of 0 in line 1 position locations into 17 channel uppers and string sets done by equation. Now the rotation spin cycle is to understand how to set the zero line center locations into 1 to 17. So you got 0 line 1 and set locations into 0, 0, 0. Bracket line interference. Now this is a force line triangle. Sets position locations all levels into your Merkaba position line directions. Center line and position location to its pyramid setting. Pyramid set locations in high center interference and position location into south into north line connections in set location. Now, once you get in line interference, it gets complicated because now the line interference comes into position locations to its line communication of its pi. The position line direct locations comes into the uniform line rotation, sets position location as scan line settings. Now the set line sets position of north and set location into south of its triangle set. This sets a triangle line center in direct location in position to its solar generation string set, done by equation. Setting signals in high center line and rotation interference. Now once you get in this theta setting, you got theta calculation sets. So H, okay, equal locations and line center location E equal location of T equal locations of A. That's how you set the locations, all right? Now, this comes into an atom line, okay, atom line rotation interference. Now, that position locations to its double set locations, line slash to its helix, okay, to its set locations. Now, the helix comes into a core line setting in dimensional set lines into another dimension, setting line position location to correlation settings. In a rotation spin cycle, set lines in higher position location of tube set location. All of the generous and string sets. Now the line interference comes into an XD1000. That sets lines into 2 track locations in position locations, right? That implicates its set lines into travel locations into its pi, setting correlation system, down into spin cycles right through set locations in high generous and stream sets. This position its directions and center its communications right down its line cross signal set locations, down by equation. All right, so the one thing you have to understand is really understand how to use all line setting. So you have a gamma line setting, line interference. Okay, so we use gamma. Okay, gamma, sigma. Okay, sigma line setting, line interference and set locations into this position locations is whole level system. Right. Now, setting location is position of 3 line waves into all position locations into delta signal. Now, the delta signal comes into alpha setting. Alpha setting sets to a new ground center rotation and circle locations. Now, setting communication line center location is its south wind of southwest setting in position locations into southeast setting locations. All levels of travel line setting into a new pyramid set locations into 4 channels and stream locations. Okay? So the zero line center comes in positions to its diamond core, setting high settings. Now that line position splits its division locations to higher levels of higher communication. This opens a higher level channel of position line centers at gamma, sigma, and set lines in position of 3, equal line condition of 6 and 7 over 8, and positions of high lines in position of 9 into I9 operation, setting signal locations into 19 positions of a new energy wash, interception lines of a holographic stream, and set locations to its position of its directions, down by equation. Now, once you come into a line center, into sigma, you have to understand the box lines. Now you got 3 box line rotations, all right? Spinning on cycles. There's 3 line settings. So we got gamma over factor. Okay. Over factor, we have gamma, sigma. Okay. And we have gamma Okay, setting position locations, align centers of tri-reactor. Setting communications, all the settings, all right? Tri-reactor locations, all right? That's how it's set up. Now, the 17 line channel sets line position. 17 one line settings, 1 equals location of 17. 17 sets position of 7. 7 equals 7. 7, 7. Box 3 line 7s in rotation to a cosmic universal line setting. Done by equation. All right, so setting signals and set locations comes into a mega of center operation to signal positions. This comes into flux capacitors through communications into its past, into its present, into its future setting, and 3 line position locations, into levels of correlation setting, into a half pipe, into its own pi set location. Now, the center correlation sets line communications levels. The center line rotates its split cycles and sets lines. So it sets positions to its all levels of travel lines in a 45-degree angle, setting correlation set lines in high setting in percentage locations in position. Now that puts a line center location in dot lines as 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 line setting, done by equation. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm just correlating its set lines into theta line in a schematic location of channel option streamlines. It's all about understanding the x lines of pi, the positions of pi, the rotation spin cycles of pi, the tri-factor communications of pi, the tri-reactor line connections of gamma, sigma, set lines and position of routers and correlations of pi, setting high position locations and high channel line positions of pi, recorrelating high line and rotation interference of 17 communications over pi, positions of line center location of past channels of pi, position line direct locations of high channel operation streams of pi, reposition locations to its theta line interference correlation system of tri-factor, of tri-sector, and position locations into its megas over communication line settings over pi, triangulations over pi, simulation line communications, high generation streamlines of holographic stream locations of pi, position line direct locations, high center generation line centers over pi, line communication interference line direct locations over pi, position location direct line centers into 17 channels, and theta communications of veil line centered to all communications of freedom and sovereignty and line interference and set location of species line and high generation streamlines and line position location in 17 channels that are stream locations over pi. 3 communication line centers of tri-line positions over pi. Reposition line tractions as high center interference position locations over pi. Reposition line direct locations as high generation line centers at 0, 12 line settings into 12 DNA track locations over pi. Position line connections over pi. Retrack interference line communications over pi. Recenter line operations to schematics line positions over pi. Line communication line tracks and high center interference at 3, 0 line positions over line center location at 1 graph streams over pi. Position line connections over pi. Line communications 17 channel line position of theta line interference, set line position of the moon, new sun codes and high center tri-factor line positions of 1 graph stream and set locations over pi. Position line setting is to understand how to set all communications in your set lines over pi. Okay, so it's all set through a equation, all done through line setting. Wow. So getting to the course line setting is really recognizing the communication sets. So you get bracket line sets, line position at all levels. Okay, 0 line position of 1. Make sure you put position of 0, 0. Bracket 2 line setting in rotations and interference. That's 2 track locations, right? Now equal line connections into line settings, all level system locations. How to channel line setting and interference and how to bring this forward and set locations all about channel option streamlines in your solar line connection you learned about. Okay, so it's really recognizing what you're doing through all the time position. Now this circles its position lines to travel locations, travel locations, travel locations, all right, and 3 set locations. All right, so when you understand the Merkaba, it travels its high line signal, it's a lot of gamma sigma, setting line position locations into its triangle set line. Okay, as it's coming in line interference, it comes into its theta setting, into its box location, to its T reception line communications. Now this has 3 waving patterns in line setting. This opens all position location directions. This opens another channel operation line setting. Okay, so it rotates its spin cycle and set location into 0 gravity line setting. 0 equals set location of 0, 0, and line center location of gravity in set locations. All right, done by equation. All right, waiting on signals and high set line position location direct signals. It's truly recognizing everything that you're doing with your clock lines. Now, setting communications to all levels of high setting. This gets more complicated. Now, understand the track lines, how to set up the clock line, high interference, position, location, direct settings. All right, so recognition of timelines, time streams times pi. The position line interference is trimester. Now, the trimester is its trifactor. The trifactor is the tri-reactor. The line position location is the alpha, the delta, the theta, the beta, the omega, and the line positions all over the gamma set location radiation cycles. Radiation cycles resets line position locations when you come into patterns, position locations, systematic line rotation interference, and open position locations of its pi, setting line center and high end position location of trial set locations. All right, setting communication settings and all line settings to all levels of Leah, set like condition high position locations, all levels of Max position of Gypsy level communication settings, Sam line setting, all line position of Cami, all line position of Heather, all site locations and high center interference of Geneva, all levels of Lauren, there's a Val, Chris communications, all genders and streamlines into David position line directions, all signal locations. Let's go into Russ and communication line stream sets and Gypsy calculation settings, all line interference, and direct locations. All right, Trinity communications, all levels of Merlin, Guardian set lines, high center interference, JP position line directions, all levels of high signal. Now, coming to line communications, truly send all levels of you through track locations. This positions your directions, how you use your theta interference. Now, theta interference sets its own line signals. This opens up the alpha, delta, theta, beta, omega. Setting line positions of gamma, signal location, and radiation line setting high position locations, all levels of 12, 24, 48, 72, and 144. 144 over pi through crystal grid set line position location, one line setting. Line setting line interference at 0 line position in 1 second, 1 channel, 1 square, 1 mile, 1 position, 1 program, 1 activation, 1 correlation, 1 line, high position locations, tri-reactor of pi. Okay, setting position line directions. All right, so getting confirmation to its set lines is really understanding the releasing position line track settings into your cross circles and set locations. All right. So knowing exactly what's going on through your set lines is really recognizing communication your 0 lines in your 12 DNA rotation settings. Once you get in that position location, you understand the schematics. Each channel has an operation line setting, but it's very powerful when you come into these line communications. All right. So setting signals and high center interference is understanding locations. Now this is where we come into the micro and macro. Okay. Now the micro line settings, that's line position locations into nano and nano line centers. Okay, it's really interesting to look at the locations here. Okay, so you got a nano set lines. Okay, now this sets line into its meditation. You line conditions its graph. The graph line center sets its future operation to its form, setting line position locations at higher levels into its pi set locations. 3 line settings, 6 positions into 7, and 6 locations into 7, and 7 location into 7, and position location 6 overrides its 8 line setting into 9. 9 positions all levels, 12 equals line position of 3. Set line conditions of 1 plus 1 equals 3 line positions in the track line setting, and rotation of 6. And all levels, half pipe sequence and set locations equals moon setting into plus line triangle, and set location is sun in position location of directions. And there you go. All done. Wow. Okay, it's all done. Everything's done. So your theta line centers are open. 17 line streams and set locations. Congratulations. Recognizing the longitude and latitude location. So it's trying to measure your set lines in all levels of the correlation system. Ratios from proportion line settings coming up next in set locations. This is where you have to synergize, decentralize communications to not just your theta box setting, but understand the quadrant line setting of the water containment set locations. Now that's 6 channel average streamlines. Now line and line rotation interference sets all channel average streamlines in set location in its direct locations. So you got 8 line setting, 8 position locations into gamma set line position operation, set line position location of travel set locations. Now the set locations comes into 12 DNA set locations and set line setting. Now the measure communications comes into line conditions. That's where it comes into an atom surface. That atom surface rotates its spin cycle, crosses line setting and high interference. That travels its half pipe in 6 line settings and rotations, equal line conditions into 0, 0, bracket line settings in gravity line center rotation and position to its set locations into levels of communication, setting correlation, right? Done by equation. All right. So as of tomorrow line signal, so you guys are going to come into your set lines and your infinity. Okay, this is the interception lines of interfacing line settings. You have to understand the infinity cycles in all set location into higher set locations. Setting position locations, this is where it comes into full calculation settings. Now the rotation spin cycle has to recognize all communications through its line signal in its position to its alpha line rotation. The alpha position line directions is the 8-channel streamlines in set locations in set line settings into its triangle set location in its position. All right. So now your theta is up in set locations. It's an operation signal. The operation signal has its form, equines to its navigation to its 12. And so you got 12 lines. You got times lines of 12, times lines of 12 into 36. Now that's a V line cross. Okay, equals cross setting locations. And then when you cross these things line settings, you're going to recognize the communication into velocity of 36 equal locations into acceleration line setting in its rotation. Now the rotation spin cycle sets, you have to have the half pipe. The half pipe sets line position locations over line center location, your moon setting. Moon sets a rotation spin cycle, sets a line position location to its line connections into 9 channels into an energy wash line stream. Now it rotates its spin cycle of 9 line settings, line position location of box position location, high center and position lines of 3 over 6 over 5 over line setting positions at all levels. Now the heart reactor and the set lines and high line interference line position locations is its measure. The measure line position is 3 equals line position 9 equals line connection to 1 plus 1 equals line connection to 3. That box its position locations into levels of trimester, in position location and ground settings, into Merkaba, into solar line communication. It's that system. Setting by direction. Okay. So, all right. Seeing the pi is the equation. The flywheel must, maintain balance for pi to work correctly. Yep. Well, the open sequence patterns now, your theta line center, is longitude and latitude now. The open patterns and high direct locations. So rhythmatic line setting and position location hieroglyphic line setting is your pyramid line streams, guys. You have to recognize the film strips and set location to all line settings into 3 operation cycles. Okay. Now that sets line positions to its own flux capacitor to really understand the grounds and understand the rotation spin cycle and magnetic high line channel operation. Your pyramid is in rotation of a graph line stream set. It rotates its graph line in rotations to its arc of its communication. The high line interference sets a higher level of communication to a higher position of its pyramid setting in rotations. This opens up higher lines of its lacing lines of communication of laser direct locations, high channel stream sets. It opens all position location of its panels and rotations to its graph lines, the streamline position of its rotations of its 0 locations, done by equation. Wow. Okay. So there's a lot of things you have to recognize what is going on with you now, because your theta line settings are longitude and latitude. The bandwidth and the correlation system is in a 7-channel line stream. That's 1 over line centers over pi. The 17-channel streamline setting is position of its direction, the position line setting. So it's in a rotation spin cycle that sets line communication. And once you come into 18 line channels, it's a new ground setting to a theta line setting interference into infinity cycle. This is where you come in position locations to your dogma and your dharma. The dharma sets line signals in position of force line communications. The dogma is just basically a reference line of a channel opposite streamline. So it's all about understanding the direction of location. Your 7 channels of opposite streamline has to reverse position locations into 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, putting you guys in all timelines and all sequence locations to 1 o'clock line setting in a heat signature pattern, rotation spin cycles of 0 trap locations into 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 channels of operation locations of alpha sigma. Alpha sigma to position location at gamma line setting. That opens all position location direct locations to your channel stream sets. The high center is its position location at 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 line setting and rotations to your theta communication setting in rotations 2, its cross signals, and a vector feed set locations. Now, the feed set locations in a formation line setting. That's an energy line interference and the energy track setting. So it sets a seed pod communication to its pyramid set rotation into all levels of gamma signals to set locations. All right. Now, a rotation spin cycle has a magnetic highway information line stream, sets a zero line in set locations to another flux capacitor and set location to a new ground setting. So it's recognizing line settings, high interference, higher position location of travel locations. All right. Recognizing it's very complicated if you understand design. Now, the high line center sets a 9-line position locations at levels. It's all position locations. So what it is, the Merkabah position of travel. Correlation system position line directions, right? Channel opposite streamlines and data process communications in a rotation. Setting line interference and set location at 12 line signals. Now, the 24 ground setting opens all position locations to higher communication settings in a rotation spin cycle and set location. Done by equation. All right. So how's everybody doing so far? So I'm just showing you what's happening right now with the theta interference. Really recognize the pyramid activity streamlines. But if you look at the schematic line positions, this is where you're coming into position. All right. So it's recognizing the Merkabah, the tesseract, the tetrahedron location, the hexagonal line center, and the high line interrotation, high position locations, your quasar interference, setting line position locations. All right. So setting communication to this lines. And to set location of this line communication, setting communication to zero line in position location of directions, setting communication in this line in position location directions. So this is all you're doing is you're changing the zero lines and set locations of the bracket interference in 3-line positions. Now the 3-line position comes over line positions into 6 set locations. So 3-line settings, 3 equals line position of 6. Now 6-line position locations come to the 7. And 7-line position jumps across its line setting line in rotations to its ether line rotations to a new flux capacitor position of channel, comes into 8. Now the 8-line center comes into downshift location 9. 9 comes in position of 12. 12-line center line in rotations 12 plus 12 plus 12 is set locations into 36 lines, equaline position of operation and its position to set location. So you have to really understand how to use your theta settings because now it's in longitude, latitude. So setting locations, this is you. Okay. This is your scan line setting. This is your theta now. It's getting bigger. Okay. This is set signal. Right. So over time, setting communication, it gets bigger. It gets bigger through an open window over time. The high center of the zero line rotations, the power line recognition, and your magnetic highway information line setting opens all position locations. So your Merkabah comes in a higher communication of its position. So it channels its line signal in set locations. All right. Travels its high position of its direction. As it comes into line positions, you come into this line communication. Now, once you understand how to use the Merkabah can travel to any position line direction locations. Your tesseract is the channel lines. Now, this is set locations when it comes in its filter. The filter communication system sets free lines and communications, all of the travel lines. You come out of your box position location of space and time. The sequence communication system is all about how to balance these things in all rotation spin cycles and high generation stream sets. It sets high position location and higher levels of travel in its location. All right. So you guys are now in theta line position rotation spin cycles, which is really, really powerful. So you got one line setting, equal line conditions of 117. That's one channel operation, one dimensional line signal. Now that sigma sets line position of its quadrant line setting, sets position locations into escape. Setting escape line setting, sets position of its energy line into systematic line communication into its correlation setting. Okay. Setting communication in a waving central line position locations into its box locations, equal line conditions. Now this basically factors equals line positions over box location. Okay. Now setting communication is all levels. The communications of 1 to 7 into one line setting. Now, inline center locations is 3 channels of 1 lines in set locations. You bracket that center locations. That centers its communication into its Merkaba of its high line and its low line and its solar generator, done by equation. Recognizing your communication is to understand how to use the atmosphere lines of communications. Now, your Merkaba is set up to its tesseract. Now, the tesseract is its computer relay setting. That's communication when it comes into your binary set locations. We'll get into the channel line settings because the system is position location to its product line setting. That's a production location into a valve. That valve is microline setting. It's the alpha channel communication line setting. This opens all position locations to your sonars of communications, all levels of channel operations streamlines in position to your tracker locations. This channels your set lines and high division locations of all levels of travels. So getting that line interference. Now you understand the 6th line is your positions to what? Water containment setting, right? Equal line center location is set lines is position of what? Your theta setting rotations come into a box. There's the TV. Now, once you understand the TV line stream, you come into panels of communication, right? Setting correlation system to your antennas, right? To your flux capacitor, new ground setting rotations, new power generation streamlines into high communication settings, all done through equation. So you have to recognize more levels of U now because the bandwidth and the correlation system is now in a high stream set. That high stream set sets a line communication to its arbiter line setting. The tracker system is set up position location to its directions. Now the 0 line center rotations in position of bracket is 0 line 1. So 0, okay, coming into the line, coming into 1. Now the 1 line setting sets line 1 in position location of level, the set location of operation. So that's 1 line setting, 1 in rotation, and 0 in gravity, right? So 0 equal location of 1, line position of 1 equal line position of 17. 17 equals 1 line position in positions of square root in set locations. Okay, done by equation. So recognizing the communication is what you're doing. Try to understand the rotation spin cycles because you have an X line setting. Now, an X-line setting rotates its bandwidth, and the bandwidth has a formation location to its navigation signals. Now, once you get into that, you come into caps of locks. Now, the caps locks is set lines and position at levels of panels. That splits its division in set lines. So you got 1 line set in a line in position of 1 equals 17. That's 1 over pi through 7 location. Really recognize the communications when it comes into all levels of U through signal. You got sonars, set lines, you got echo chambers, water containment setting line interference. Really get into position line settings, the face recognitions into your letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Not just the relationship and partnership, but understanding the face recognition, how 1 can turn in the line setting location to a box, how a box can turn anything to line position locations into 2, how 2 can turn anything in position locations into its Fibonacci. Okay, so that's 3 channel operation streamlines and 3 locations. So that's 3 equal lines position of 2, center lines is 5, equal line position of 6, half pipe position line directions into moon setting. Okay, you have to recognize these things through pi, guys. It's all recognition of all position location high setting. Sonar interference in high direct locations sets all position location directions. And they got 3 channels in Fibonacci. Fibonacci line position locations all levels of channel arcs and streamlines. It sets position locations, 3 equal line connections of 4, which is a solar generator, and 2 stream set lines and set locations into positions of lacing lines of communication. Okay. So you guys have to get into factors over pi through structure location of holograms of your schematic lines. So 0 is set location to schematics. Okay, how to set up 0 in schematic line setting. There's the schematics to 0. Panel communications of 2 line settings. So 0 equals this. So 1 line setting comes in a higher communication system. So that's 1 line into a box location. So that's one position and another one positions. Okay, so you got two lines. You got two here in position locations. That's 4 in set location, right? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So setting line position location is 2 equal line connections of 4 equal locations over pi set lines and position line directions in square root. So you guys have to recognize how to change everything in structure. Changing structures is all levels of U through line setting. Really recognize the communications now, because now you're working with your theta, which is a video line setting, which is the projection locations to your sun, to your moon set location, into trifactor line position, right? So sun lines of code sets into bracket locations and high channel stream sets. That's your sun. This is your moon, okay? In projection. Understand? So the moon comes into a half pipeline string in 6 locations, right? Recognizing communication into 9 lines into a rainbow graph string in set location, right? So you have to really recognize your numbers now and how to form. You have to get into the GOD sets. Eclines is just everything locations to anything in set locations. It mutates, transforms, teleports, and communicates. Okay? So you have to recognize everything that's going on with your set lines now. That is a very powerful channel of operational locations coming from the general settings. But recognizing your connections is a white line setting. This formulates set locations into set locations that shift. Shifting your parallels and paradox position of stream sets all line communication of form lines. Now it gets complicated, right? It's extremely complicated what I'm saying, but it's all position location to its balanced line setting, limiting all timeline sequence and all position location of correlation system to 7 line settings and putting you guys into 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 line setting in one division, living all timelines and all calculations into one equal line conditions of sigma. So recognizing what you are doing is getting yourself into balance. To get your balance is your masculinity and your femininity. Getting into that position location of directions gets you into your divine self. You have a track setting locations into 12 now. 13 over pi, 14 within position, 15 within high lines and timelines, the sequence locations of 5, 5, bracket line, center line, and rotation position location of 3 line settings, which is 8 infinity line rotation and position locations into your senses. You have to learn how to use this all through your impulses, right? Recognizing reactor line interference of trimester, triposition of vector over pi, position its direction line settings when you come into 16 channel line setting, which is the new ground setting locations, into your water containment of your echo chamber settings. Interception line streamline interference of 1 ground setting into 17 channels into theta interference gives you all levels of projected locations into your sun and your moon setting locations of all track locations in its image. All right? Try to understand what it's doing, where it's going, where it's heading, what it's doing, right over left, right? Up and down, side to side, crisscross, DNA, rotation spin cycles, high generation streamlines, high rotations, all position location and center line communication. All done through Merkaba and travel recognition. Okay? So in that system, you have to recognize how to use it through pi, because your position of your directions now is at all levels in its correlation, right? Especially when you come into your theta settings, right? So the fear track and the set line is no more. Okay, the recognition of timelines and in sequence location is all timeline sequence. In position locations, all levels of its GOD and set location of its communication. Ooh-ah. All right. Yeah, beautiful, sir. Raising more awareness and more clarify. clairaudience, sustain, motivation signals, high center interference, high track locations, and position location, the ground levels in operations to quantum of its bandwidth, line stream, set line position location, and formation line streams. That's why you guys have F line settings and F1 and position locations into F12 locations. This is a formation location. To recognize all calculations as vectors and all set locations and how to use the atmospheres, how to use the correlations to its hemisphere, stratosphere, right? The correlation system, hydrosphere set locations, setting position locations into the biosphere or the briniosphere, all right? The ultraspheres, the ether spheres. There's so many line position of ozone line positions of direction. You have to recognize all these things through navigation. So when you get into that line center interference, you understand all reference line connections to your position locations because you guys are now in 17 operation of activation. You have to recognize these in all line position locations of space and time. Okay, space and time right here. Space and time. Awareness of its information. Okay. So it's all about understanding everything that's going in position line directions. So everything that you're reading is always in a force recognition line setting, a reflection set locations. All right. This measures you and how many times you have to recognize your program locations. Putting your thoughts going forward is all timelines all at once. Okay. All through vibration, recognizing alpha, delta, theta, beta, omega, or any line position of gamma through radiation line settings. Really recognize the communication to all levels of channel operation line settings from 0 to 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 line settings in a rotation cycle and set location. All right. All right. So you guys did a tremendous job. You guys are now set in line interference. You've seen more through formation, through an exploration. You've seen more bandwidth of its cloud line setting in channel line positions to a schematic line interference of a one line ground setting in 17 locations. All right. That's 17 operation signals. That's 17,000 line signal line interference, a gamma line setting of sigma, setting position location of 17 mantle channel line settings. Now, mantle is set locations to its mantle. So the line center location is its metric communication to its atmosphere line of the neutralized system location, teleportation line center locations of its high setting. Now, getting into the mental capacity set line interference is a psychological line connections, how you come into the physical adaptation line centers, into conscious locations, into hunter chakra set locations, into position. All right. So once you get a 100 line setting, it sets line position locations at higher levels of channel operation streamlines into your geo set locations. Higher levels of clock lines in your 12, 24, 48, and 72 and 144 crystal grids of DNA. This opens all channel operation streamlines and set locations. Once you understand the channel operational line settings, then you get into the psychological psychops. Now, the psychop line setting sets line position location directions to see yourself in all levels and remember who you are through position of capacity to its body setting. Body capacity line position over pi in position location of trifactor, in site location of trimester, and site line position locations into its factoring communication system into its line connections. Now, your set system position location directions. This opens all levels of you through channel calculations, right? Especially when you understand more levels of you, puts you in higher levels of travel into all universe line connection. Okay, higher levels of dimensions, higher levels of travels, higher levels of your avatar string set line interference in direct locations. Okay, so yeah. All right, so we got a position line centers, 5-10 minutes to get you guys ready. I'll see you guys on Zoom. Congrats.